You're listening to The Moose and the Loose, your 10 minutes action-packed financial podcast with your host, Mike Yahoo. Hey, what's up, Market Moose? Mike from The Moose on the Loose. I hope you are doing well on this Monday. So how was your weekend? I'm cheating a little bit. I recorded this one in advance, mostly because I was at a hockey tournament for the entire weekend. So chances are my voice is a bit sore right now. So I'm going to let it rest and I'm going to record more stuff for Tuesday later on. Anyways, today, you know what? The reason why I decided to do this podcast, The Moose on the Loose, with only 10 minutes is because I value your time. I value mine, of course, but I value your time as well. I don't want to go on and on about like interesting stuff, but I want to provide you with relevant information. And this is what I want to talk about today. The best of thing about the internet is, of course, everything is there. Everything is free. And it takes like a few minutes to do some research and then boom, you get interesting information. Last week, I asked myself, like, would it be possible to buy only Canadian stocks to have like a geographically diversified portfolio? Super interesting research. I went on the internet, went onto the company's website, digging into their financial statements to get all that information. And I was like really happy to do that. And I hope that you have enjoyed those two episodes. They were published last Wednesday and Thursday if you missed those. So I mean, just take a second to just make sure that you're subscribed to The Moose of the Loose on your favorite podcast platform to not miss those. But anyways, so you get that information. It is super easy to get and it's great. But the problem is too much is probably like not enough information. And I call that noise most of the time. We are filled with noisy information. And noisy information will confuse you because you're going to read like pros and cons and pros and cons, and then everybody will have a pretty solid argument, and at one point you won't know which direction to take. It's going to steal your time away because there are like so many great articles, so many great podcasts and videos to watch and listen to. Then you could spend hours digging into that rabbit hole and never see the end of it. And the worst part of like opening yourself to that noise to interesting information is paralysis by analysis, because you get too much and then you get stuck and your brain just go on strike and say, you know what? I'm not working for you anymore. You deal with your own stuff. And until you have a clear idea what's going on, we're not going to make a single move. But paralysis by analysis is really bad. Imagine how many people that got stuck after 2022 small market correction and then thought, oh, I'm going to go back into GICs and I'm going to save a lot of money, and then the market's going to go down and it's going to be the end of it. Well, they missed on two amazing years with 23 and 24. Who knows what's going to happen in 25, but you can rest assured that over a long period of time, the GICs are not probably a great solution unless you want to sleep well at night and you don't care about returns. So getting into that paralysis by analysis also because there are too much contradicting information. If you go on Seeking Alpha, for example, I just love this example. You go on Seeking Alpha and you look for Brookfield Renewable, and then you'll see a big headline, oh, Brookfield Renewable is about to badly perform. You will see sell signal. And then if you read onto articles, you're going to see buy signals and strong buy signals and then strong sell all signals. And then, I mean, what can you make out of that? First, you will need hours to get through everything that is offered on the Seeking Alpha page, and that's only one source of information. And then you're going to have like pros and cons and pros and cons, and it's just going to confuse you. How many times do I receive emails saying, oh, I read this interesting newsletter, I watched this interesting YouTube, I listened to this interesting podcast. I mean, not too long ago, I got someone commenting on YouTube saying, oh, I watched this video on YouTube about Brookfield Corporation, and this guy says it's really risky. So maybe he's right. Maybe it's a good information, but this is the point. How do you make sure that you get the difference between interesting and relevant. Because I mean, it's a tough question, but it's essential because everything is interesting. Like dogs like jumping around on a good music could be interesting for some people. Not necessarily relevant, but it could make you smile, right? But regarding investing, it's going to be the same thing. And unfortunately, the answer to that question of what is interesting and what is relevant will be different for everyone because you're not at the same place in your investment journey and you're not looking at the same type of information. Unfortunately, you must make the difference between interesting and relevant because if not, you're going to fall into that paralysis by analysis again and you're going to get bombarded. So here are a few tricks about choosing what is relevant for you. So the first thing is, of course, if you want to learn about a specific topic. So I, for example, rarely read news for that reason because I don't care about what's going on in the world, like globally. I mean, yes, there are like a bunch of news, but most of them are not really interesting. I mean, they're actually interesting, but they're not really relevant to my portfolio and they're not relevant to my life. So yes, you may want to be aware of what's going on or if there was an accident yesterday, but that is part of the interesting stuff, not the relevant. However, if I want to learn about a specific company, I will read articles about it because I'm doing research to determine if I want to invest or not in this company. Same thing about a strategy. If it's relevant to your strategy, then probably it makes sense to read or watch YouTube videos and get a little bit more information just to adjust and tweak what you're doing. However, it would be just interesting if you just like go on from one strategy to another and just read, let me read a little bit more about momentum trading or option trading. And then you go, should I go like with stock picking, go with for value, for dividend, for ETFs? And again, you're going back also with all this interesting information into paralysis by analysis. Once you have selected the strategy you wanted, once you have actually learned about it and researched other strategies and you decided to pick one, what's the point of trying always to look at the what's going on outside? It's like dating other girls while you are married. And of course, other girls could be interesting, of course, but they're probably not relevant to the health of your marriage, right? So you have to consider this and focus on what matters to you where you are. A good trick for that is also to make the decision instead of like being suggested. So that is usually when you dig a rabbit into a rabbit hole, is when you just let your phone and let internet and let, I don't know, Facebook or YouTube telling you what you should watch next. So what I typically do is I just do my research on a specific topic and then I get out of this because I want to learn about something. I make a clear decision about an intentional decision about the information I'm about to consume, and then it becomes relevant. Another thing is also to verify the source of that information. So it has to be relevant as well, right? You're going to read a bunch of analysts claiming that a stock will double in the next 12 months, or experts are forecasting this and forecasting that. I mean, actually, every forecast, you should just put that into the trash. Nobody knows what's going to happen in a year from now. I mean, I don't, you don't. Like the expert on BNN doesn't for sure. And the worst part is those guys are not even good enough to come back the next year and say, hey, I was wrong about this. So whenever I talk about what I think is going to happen, I'm transparent and I try to base my stuff on like numbers, and then I don't try to make forecasts for that reason going the long run, because it's impossible. So instead, I prefer to look at numbers today and make decisions with what I know and what I can control. It's important also to understand the bias. So where the information is coming from. Is there like, what's the goal and the purpose of that person to give you that information? That will also help you determine if it's relevant or not. It is, I must warn you, it is an internal combat. Even myself, I find myself sometimes getting interesting information and not necessarily something relevant. But the more you can cut, so the less noise you can have in your life, the better you will feel, and more actions, more decisions you'll be able to take quickly. And that is the most important thing, I think. So, all right, Moose, that's enough for today. I hope that this podcast was relevant for you. And if it was adding value, please take a second to go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give me a 5-star rating. It's the only way I can grow this podcast, or tell to your friend, tell to your family. It's going to mean the world to me, because it's the only way I can get more listeners and I can provide more relevant information. So, all right, Moose, that's enough for today. We're going to talk again tomorrow. And until then, don't forget to stay invested. Hey, welcome to the disclaimer. If you're listening to The Moose on the Loose, you cannot really expect me to give you buy or sell recommendation or financial advice, right? You're here for fun, you're here for information and some entertainment. But I am not your financial advisor, I am not your broker, so therefore I'm not liable if you're losing money after listening to the podcast. If you're looking for some advice, go see a professional. If not, you can enjoy this show and do your due diligence after it.